So Jay Patel is joining us today on the WiT Studio. He is the Global Account Director, B2B Travel at Visa. Jay, thank you so much for doing this.
Good, great to meet you. Thank you.
Right. I want to start by asking you, what emerging trends in B2B travel payments, so like virtual cards, open banking, real-time settlement, are most promising at the moment, you think?
I think still at the moment virtual cards still have a space to go. I still think there's a huge growth opportunity, right? If we look at carded volume at the moment and virtual, we're capturing a segment where there's much more that's possible, right? And if you think about the changing types of merchants that we see in the market now as well, where we start seeing single property owners, property management companies, we think there's still opportunity to utilise virtual card and their benefits with these guys. Look, I think open banking is an interesting one, but at the moment it's very Europe-centric, right? So we need to see that spread across the other regions. So we have some common framework to really make that work. The other one is around the real-time settlement as well, instant settlement. We think that's a big opportunity. We're seeing that, Visa's invested in a number of different businesses, our Visa Direct businesses all around that retail settlement. And I think that can cater for some of those new types of merchants where maybe cards not possible. They might not be card enabled. So being able to use methods like that, I think we'll see a growing trend in that way.
Right. And I guess you kind of answered the question already, but which of those do you think has the biggest implementation hurdles?
I think with open banking, we just need that to spread across the other markets. I think the other thing, with open banking as well, we still lack some of the security that you receive with a card product, right? You know that if there's going to be fraud, that you've got a number of rights to dispute that, and you've had protection. That needs to be enhanced on open banking. Something Visa's doing, when we think about our account-to-account solution, we're adding that Visa protection, so you can pay by your bank account but still have that same safety when it comes. So that's something that once we see that moving globally, that could work. With real-time settlement, again, it's very, very fragmented. It's different in each market. There's different regulatory reasons that don't always, prevent some of that real-time settlement. So there's still some movement. I think, with virtual card, it's probably the lowest because it's something that's been very common in the B2B travel space for a long time. Is it easy? No, it's not. I think you still need to have a really thought out supplier engagement if you're going to really make this work for you. If you're an OTA and you're trying to pay your merchants by virtual card, it's really important to engage with those merchants, to get them on board, talk to them about the benefits and get it out that way.
Right. And, in which markets do you see the fastest growth when it comes to B2B travel payments?
So if I think about, we're a global team, but where we've seen some really amazing growth, Asia Pacific has been great. The fastest bounce back after COVID. A huge amount of Asia Pacific travel is really, really driving it. And then the growth of some of the really big OTAs in the region, right? If you think about your Trip.coms, your Agoda, Make My Trip, really, really fueling the region. So that's one of them. The other one's Samir. There's huge growth in that market. You've seen massive investment in fintechs and travel tech in that market. I think also that's really interesting. Actually, I was at the World Travel and Tourism Council meeting this week, and you had the Saudi tourist board there and talking about what they're doing, investing to get travellers to come and see the region. So I think there's been a huge amount of that. A lot of government initiatives to get travellers to travel beyond just Dubai now, right? And that's really, really interesting. And the similar thing for LAC, we had the Brazil Tourism Board there talking about how they want to try and attract more cross-borders. So that's another growth market. I think some of the things that's fueling it in LAC as well is that what we've seen is the inclusion of some of the very market-specific payment products like Pix in Brazil. And you see those being available on OTA websites now. So that's really fueling growth there as well.
Right. And you mentioned this earlier, regulations and regulatory issues and hurdles and challenges. What are the unique local challenges or hurdles in those regions that you just mentioned, those growth regions?
Yeah, so one of the things we see in Asia Pacific is FX consistency. So that is an issue. So that's something that needs to be worked on. There are also some just differences between markets, right? And sometimes I think if you're a global player, you really need a local framework to be able to operate properly in the Asia Pacific region. So that's what I see there. In Samir, you have other range of things, right? It's there are some religious-based rules that if you're again a global business that you have to work with, and that's sometimes difficult for Western businesses. But that's probably the key hurdle in that region. I think in Brazil. in LAC, there's a range of different things because each country has its own regulatory hurdles, right? And I mentioned Brazil because that is one of the most difficult places to operate if you're a non-local entity and you want to get involved in payments. There are a number of rules around money coming out of the country and things like that. So, yeah, I think in LAC it's really important to find the right partners to operate in that market.
Right. When we say Visa, it becomes and travel payments, of course, it becomes synonymous with finance and revenue, profits, earnings, those kinds of things. But how does Visa measure success or ROI for B2B travel partnerships? And these are things like the metrics that go beyond just revenue.
Yeah. I mean, even though I work in B2B travel, our clients are generally issuers and large OTAs. But for me, the key thing is, what is the experience like for the traveler? So that is, for me, how we measure everything. If we are improving the experience for the traveller, that means we're doing the right thing for the issuers, we're doing the right things for the merchants, and we're doing the right things for the acquirers, so essentially across the ecosystem. So that's one key thing. And that means from things like having frictionless payments, that means from having multiple payment methods, not just card rails, which is historically what Visa's always been about, right? But it's also making sure that whatever payment that we're facilitating is secure and that has protection, and also makes it as easy as possible for the merchants to process, because any friction within that, it ends up being a bad experience for the traveller and the merchant as well.
Right. So eliminating those friction points in between. Right. Given the rise of alternative payments, like there's buy now, pay later, there's crypto, peer-to-peer, etc., how is Visa positioning itself to remain on top in the B2B travel industry?
Yeah, I mentioned it before. Visa sees itself beyond just a card payment rails business now, right? We are looking across the chains. We are looking at how do we react to consumer demands and business demands, right? And that's across the board. So, we purchased Tink not long ago, an open banking business. We're really launching our account-to-account solution with that added Visa protection. We work very closely with Buy Now, Pay Later. There's Visa Pay Later. We have a number of different solutions out there. So for us, the key thing is, ensuring that we can be part of all these different methodologies, but really putting the Visa protection and security around whatever payment method a consumer or business wants to use.
Right. And I love that you mentioned security, because that's going to be my next question. What are the biggest sort of like fraud or security challenges that you see in B2B travel today? And I guess it's a two-pronged question. So how is Visa evolving its capabilities to handle those problems?
Yeah. It's one of the things that we've been working very, very closely on. I think look, when you look at air flows, when you think about virtual card, the fraud is like 0.0001%. It's tiny, because there's no manual processing going on. It's very different in the hotel space. We still see people, printing virtual cards, taking them to PDQ machine. You have all these manual touch points which create risk, right? And those risks can include fraud and these. And fraudsters are becoming much more developed. They understand how virtual cards work. They understand that they might be locked to a certain MCC. So what we're starting to see is things like fake property setup. It's very easy for someone to set up a fake property with the right MCC code, and then intercept these cards and charge them. And we've seen that happening more and more. And we recently launched a new solution called Supplier Validation. It's all around tackling this, right? So it's using Visa's data on merchants to give them certainty that you're paying the merchant you're meant to be. So something that might look like the Sofitel in Chelsea might not be the Sofitel in Chelsea. And through Visa data, we can give you that data and make sure that the transaction that the card is intended for is the correct one.
So it's not being siphoned off somewhere else. Right. How does AI factor into this whole ecosystem?
Yeah, so at the moment we're using existing data points, but now we'll start embedding the AI piece as well. I think for me, the AI piece is around the behavioural metrics, right? If you have a new merchant that's suddenly popped up 2 weeks ago and suddenly you're seeing a range of transactions, AI can tell, well, it's been 2 weeks. Transactions before maybe been $10, and now you're seeing transactions of thousands. So bringing AI to give that added layer of behavioural metrics as well, I think will be very, very good.
Right. So I guess in closing, speaking of the next 20, that's the theme of the conference, the next 20. What kind of travel ecosystem do you envision for the next let's not say 20 years, 5 to 10 years, 5 to 10 years. Yeah, 20 years, 5 to 10 years, especially in the B2B travel sector.
Yeah, I think there's a number of things. I think for payments, they have to become frictionless. Like, I think, if I think about how I experience Uber and things like those payments happen in the background. Like, you book and it just kind of happens. And I think that needs to happen across the ecosystem. I think, we still have to go to a hotel and take out our card and redo that again. Even though you've booked on that card, we need to make that as frictionless as possible. I think what you'll start to find in 5 to 10 years is that you'll have like a digital ID, you'll have one digital wallet, everything embedded within that. Again, to support that kind of frictionless piece. I really hope we get to a point where you can walk through an airport and it's a nice experience rather than what we go through at the moment, which is definitely not a nice experience. And the same when you walk into the hotel and all of that stuff. I think one thing that I'm quite interested in seeing is how do those loyalty programs, there's so many loyalty programs at the moment. I envisage that maybe in 5 to 10 years we have one consolidated rewards platform, right, where everything feeds into and people have that choice of being able to utilize them in different places. That may be something that happens. I mean, we were again at the event I was at last week talking to Marriott and their Bonvoy program. They're expanding beyond just their hotels. They're adding apartments, experiences, and all of these things. So I think you'll start to see more of that happening as well. I think hyper-personalization is going to be the key thing here. I think travelers' demands are much greater these days, right? And I think they really want to experience things. And I think the use of AI and the ability for AI to really understand their, I suppose, who they're the agent for, right? And being able to recommend the right travel packages and destinations is going to be something we really see. I think the use of blockchain potentially for when you think about hotel bookings and all that kind of ledgers. So if there are any cases of disputes, I think it's very simple. You have full background on all the transactions. I see that as well.
Right. Super insightful. Lovely talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. Great.